Good morning, everyone. So nice to see you this morning. I would like to begin, before we even get into our chants, talking a little bit about chants. The bottom line is this: I could be deaf and dumb, and none of you could read lips. If none of you could read lips, I don't know if you can. And I could still chant in a way that would have deep meaning. It doesn't matter whether someone who does the chants has a wonderful voice, like Nathan is blessed with, or sounds like a chicken. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if someone chants in a monotone, because in the Soto tradition, chants are done in a monotone. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion. That is the Soto tradition. It doesn't matter if I don't get my inflection right at the right points. Those of you who are well versed in chanting know all about inflection. The point is, where does your chanting come from? If it comes from the heart, the voice, the inflection, the cadence is irrelevant. Each of you who does chants, as it comes from the heart, it is a direct connect, paying homage to the Buddhas who came before and after us, will come after us, paying homage to the Sangha, paying homage to Amitabha Buddha, paying homage to the Dharma. That is the reason we chant. Let's begin today with 3 refuges. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And now we will do the Heart Sutra. We begin and end with the title, the Maha Prajnaparamita Hridaya Sutra. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion, from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita, perceived the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, nor extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but Prajna Paramita. Therefore, the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance, there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in Prajna Paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna paramita is the great Virani, the radiant fearless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna paramita. Gate, gate, ara gate, ara samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, ara gate, ara samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, ara gate, ara samgate, bodhisvaha. The Maharajya Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Well, good morning again, Sangha. It's a great day in the neighborhood. I believe yesterday was the vernal equinox, which means that the hours of daylight now are longer than the hours of darkness. The first day of spring, when things begin to pop out of the ground, gets warmer, and I love that time of year. The Dharma talk today is called When the Wheel Falls Off the Axle, a teaching on suffering. Now, the Buddha speaks often about suffering in his writings, in his teachings, and all Buddhist teachers from that time until today teach about suffering. It's a central theme in the Buddhist teachings. In fact, in his very first teaching, the Buddha said, "O bhikkhus, there are four noble truths. They are the noble truths of suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to the cessation of suffering." Later, when asked, he made the comment, "All I teach is suffering and the cessation of suffering." The first noble truth is most often, but inaccurately, unfortunately, rendered in English as life is suffering. In this case, the translation of the text loses something in translation. In Pali, the word dukkha, usually translated as suffering, has a more subtle range of meanings. It is sometimes described metaphorically as a wheel that is off its axle. In other words, a more literal translation of the First Noble Truth might be, life does not satisfy. Life does not satisfy. Now, the Buddha taught that there are three types of suffering. The first kind is physical and mental pain from the inevitable stresses in life like old age, sickness, mental health, and death from this realm. The second kind of suffering is the distress that we feel as a result of impermanence and change. Everything is impermanent, always evolving, always changing, always transforming. And then the third kind of dukkha is a kind of existential suffering. It's the angst that we experience as a result of being human, living in a conditioned existence and being subject to ultimate death and removal from this realm. Now, let me explain for a moment conditioned existence. We may think we come into this world, into this realm, with a blank slate. That is never the case. We all come with prepackaged wiring. And then we receive messages throughout our lives. In 1995, I published a book called Dancing with Yesterday's Shadows, when where you've been is keeping you from where you want to go. And as a family therapist, it was all about family systems. I used a lot of personal examples, and I described my own family of origin as the family that put the fun in dysfunctional. We were a kick. Man, were we messed up. So many different ways. That's conditioned existence. It's what we bring with us in our hardwiring, plus what we learn, the messages we receive throughout our lives, beginning from the instant we are born. How we are treated, how we are loved or not loved, how things are expressed to us, how we learn to express things. That is a conditioned existence, and that is the third kind of dukkha. Now, as we have described many times in the past, the root of all dukkha is the three poisons: ignorance, greed, and anger, with the accompanying ramifications of clinging and attachment. We all have a tendency to travel through the course of life, grasping and clinging to whatever we think or imagine will gratify us, while simultaneously attempting to avoid anything we think we will not like or that will not satisfy or gratify us. This very grasping and clinging or avoiding is the source of our dukkha. I recently came upon a quote: "We are like drowning people who reach for something floating to save us, then discover that what we've latched onto provides only momentary or temporary satisfaction. What we desire is never enough, and it never lasts. That pretty much sums it up in a nutshell, the human condition. Whatever we think we are in possession of, whatever we think is permanent, whatever we think will satisfy and last, is all an illusion, a delusion that we carry with us in our minds. So next, in our Buddhist education, to the way out of suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. It's supposed to be our liberation from suffering. Now that word liberation is used quite liberally, I think, in this context. As a Dharma teacher, I have a personal bias that at the end of each of the 8 pieces of the Noble Eightfold Path should be the statement, in this very moment. For example, right speech, in this very moment. Right effort, in this very moment. Everything in this very moment. The Buddha also taught us, and we say it in our morning bell chant, that direct experience is the only reality. And it is only when we can embrace our direct experience in each and every moment that we can actualize, become the Noble Eightfold Path, and be relieved from our suffering. You see, as I mentioned, in this realm and all other realms, there is no elimination of suffering. But we can alleviate the suffering, but not eliminate our suffering. Last week, while going to the lower level of my house, I caught my heel on the back of a stair about 4 steps up, and I plummeted the last 4 steps, head and shoulders first, down the rest of the stairs. My caffeine-free Diet Coke, 32 ounces of it in a mug, my phone, the things I was carrying, scattering everywhere and making a huge mess. And that doesn't even begin to include the pain I was in that very moment. Why did this happen? 3 reasons. I wasn't being mindful in that very moment. I wasn't being deliberate and intentional in my actions in that very moment. And my mind was just distracted. Not to mention that it just hurt like hell. Oh, don't fall downstairs. The night before that, I was mincing fresh garlic. I'm a big fan of fresh garlic. And for those of you who are aware of my culinary passions, every time I use a knife, at the end of that usage, my knives get sharpened. Those are my tools, the tools of my trade. And so they are all very, very sharp. I was mincing fresh garlic and I caught the edge of my knuckle and I started bleeding all over the fresh garlic I had just minced. So I washed it up, put some ointment on, bandaged the finger, and I started all over again. Why did that happen? I wasn't being mindful in that very moment. I wasn't being deliberate and intentional in my actions in that very moment. My mind was distracted. I was thinking about what I was going to do next rather than focusing directly with single-pointed focus on the task at hand. This morning, getting out of bed, I stubbed my toe on the nightstand in the dark. Yowza! Why did that happen? For all of the reasons I just mentioned. Even when we are mindful and intentional, we will sometimes still suffer. When we have single-pointed focus, we will sometimes still suffer. When we do 5 things, we alleviate our suffering significantly. Number 1, when we are deliberate, intentional, and mindful in each and every moment and each and every endeavor. Number 2, when we use every moment as an opportunity to meditatively approach our actions. I'm usually pretty good at that when I'm cooking. I use my cutting especially as an act of meditation, paying attention, breathing. I do it meditatively most times. Number 3, when we can see a whole universe beyond our suffering. There is one out there. When we can see the universe beyond our suffering and the suffering of others, because we are not the only ones who suffer. All sentient beings suffer. When we can see the splendor and the grandeur that is right in front of us, in people, nature, and circumstances. Number 4, when we express gratitude for all experiences. When we express gratitude, when we express gratitude for all experiences, knowing growth, our personal growth comes from everything. Where we are today comes from everything that has happened to us that precedes this very moment. As an addict, a recovering addict, I understand this all too completely. Do I wish that I had been an addict? No. Do I wish that anybody had become an addict? No. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Do I wish I had done a lot of the things in my life that I had done? No. Do I regret a lot of things I've done in my life? Yes. What's my point? My point is the culmination of what I learned from each and every one of those things that brought me to this very point, right here, right now, deliberate, intentional, and being able to gratefully offer the Dharma to our Sangha and beyond. Five, continually practice generosity and compassion toward all beings and all things all of the time. You please notice, I did not use the word easy. I didn't use the word easy in any of those five. Because being deliberate and intentional and mindful and single focused in each and every moment is not easy. It requires practice. And you never get to the point where you can say, I've arrived, here I am, I got it down. No. That's why Buddhist practice is called a practice. Because we never arrive. We keep, I have a saying that I use a lot in therapy with clients. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. What direction are you headed in? And with practice, we continue to handle, to travel in a right direction. So may we all more deeply, may we all understand more deeply the nature of our suffering and the suffering of others. May we all understand that while suffering is unavoidable at times, it's our attitude towards suffering that is our best teacher. Be well as you make your way through this wonderful realm we have all been given. We will now have some announcements. I have one announcement. Actually, it is something I would like feedback on. It came up during one of our virtual teas that there are a significant number of people that would actually like to attend a study group, a Buddhist study group of some kind, but that the only ones being offered currently were during the day when many people are working. That makes it impossible for them to attend. The Dharma Council met and we have discussed offering at least one evening study group of some kind. What I need from you is to send to my email, which is amkoe, A-M-K-O-E, at zengr.org. It's on the website. You can find it there, or my phone number, and just reach out to me with what you would like. Would you like it to be a book study? Would you like it to be a guided meditation? Would you like to have a period of meditation and then a study of some kind? How long would you like it to be? 1 hour, 2 hours? Obviously, at the current time, it would have to be on Zoom. and whoever signed up would get an invitation from the teacher on Zoom. But we as a Dharma Council would like to know what you would like as an evening study group so that we can offer something that would better meet the needs of the Sangha. That's all I have. Are there any other announcements? If not, we will end the recorded portion with the closing gathas. For all unskillful action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddha's teaching for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. Thank you for being with us today, and that ends the recorded portion of our Dharma talk.